Alright, Exiles. We're going to do something really different today, and we're going to do something mathematical today, and I'll try and explain this so, it's easy enough to follow, but basically we're going to try and predictively price the first month of what fossils are going to be worth in the first month of the league. Now, there's a really good resource that we can use to do this, and it is actually poe.ninja. So what we can basically see is basically it'll let you dump a whole shitload of data out into one big data compilation or data file. So what we can basically look at is, i.e., I'll open one up and show you exactly what it looks like. So this is basically what it looks like. It's like a whole heap of gobbledygook, rah rah rah. It's actually quite meaningful if you know how to deal with data. So basically, here's a little Excel lesson. This is separated by a semicolon, so you can run what's called a delimiter, delimit that, select semicolon, and then this is called data sanitization. By trade, I'm actually an accountant with an extensive history in dealing with large data arrays and data analytics. So this is, I guess, an area that I'm quite good at. And I do it every day. So anyway, there's a lesson for you of how to deal with large data tables. Anyway, so moving back to the path of exile and away from the accounting, we'll just hide that for the minute. There is a way that we can actually predict what fossils are going to cost to a certain degree as far as from a market standpoint for the first month of of this league that's actually coming out. So what I'll do, I'll pull open my spreadsheet and we'll just drag it across here. So essentially, I dumped out the data from poe.ninja, and what I did was I ran a filter on it for the first month. So we're going to look at an average price for the first month of what every single fossil in the game is going to be worth, and resonators as well, because this is how we're going to make currency. We're going to delve and we're going to be beasts, and we're all going to be fucking rich by watching this video. Anyway, so what I've done is, obviously taking the last league is not necessarily always a good idea just to use one set of data. We want to use multiple sets of data to try and build a comparative table, if you will. So I've dumped data from Blight League, the last league that being, Legion League and Synthesis League. And basically when I dumped the data out of poe.ninja, I dumped all the data for daily prices set to high and actually low and everything else in between. So high being, I think it means high demand, low being low demand, or low probability of sell and high probability of sell. And then basically what I've done is I have converted this into a averaged pivot table for each individual type of fossil. Obviously, this is what's called a value-based array, so sometimes dealing with pivot tables are a bit of a pain in the ass. Pivot tables just let you basically manipulate the data so that you can summarize it in a much more efficient way. And then what we have done is we have actually built a summary table. So I'll drag that down, try not to have my face impede people's ability to see. Alright, so what are we looking at here? This is actually the average price of what we expect. I'll just make that a little bit bigger. This is the average price of every type of fossil based on the last 3 leagues in the first month of each league. So comparatively, if we were doing a profit or loss or something like that for a business, we would actually look at a similar quarter, a similar month in the previous year, and we would compare it, and we would expect some sort of comparability. As you can see, that's actually the case. Now, what will dictate the pricing changes with fossils is fundamentally whether or not nerfs have happened to the fossils, whether or not there has been a new meta, and there has for every single league, i.e. we can see that we can see the trend of bound fossils. So bound fossils essentially are minion fossils. Now, Blight League is when minions actually became relevant. So we go from, and this is what's really interesting about data, we go from 1 in Synthesis and Legion, and then bam, 100% to 10 times the value in the league that minions got buffed to the shithouse, and the feeding frenzy jewel came out. Feeding frenzy gem came out. So we can see that this data is somewhat of a degree, like this is just an indicator that this data is somewhat to a degree accurate, or at least is showing us that the way that the market works is based on the builds, which we would expect in every league. That's how any market works, is supply and demand. Now, obviously with this, I've recalculated this, and I'll put a link to this spreadsheet too in the description. I set up a media file, so you can download this and have a look. You can even tweak it, because the beauty of this spreadsheet is if you set it out similarly, you can actually predict the price of many things depending on what's actually. So if it's basically like a standard item, this would be one way that we can set up data arrays and actually go, hey, here's the previous league data, what should I price this at? Now obviously with specifically crafted items, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, because obviously crafting is a completely different mechanic, and that's, you know, this spreadsheet to dump all this data out is ridiculously huge, and it actually breaks Excel. So it's probably not going to be so possible, because there's so many fucking combinations of how this works. But for market exchanges, or you know, when we talk about that, actually trading chaos for marketable items, such as other currencies and things like that, we can do predictive analytics to calculate that, and we're getting really, really university level right now. Anyway, so basically we can see aberrants in the next league aren't going to be worth shit. Etherics, we're probably going to be able to sell for, on average, 3 chaos in the first month of the league, on average. Bloodstained fossils, now debatable as to whether or not they're going to sell. There's probably a reason why they dropped to 94, and it would be a drop in the need or the demand. But potentially they could be relevant this league, I'm not sure. So soon to be seen, but I would probably be selling them for about 150 at the start of the league. And I would, if I was setting a market trend and I was a delver in particular, I would be trying to basically push that price up so that they're not selling at 94 in the first month of the league like last league. Bound fossils, we're going to sell at 10. Corrodeds, about 7. Dense fossils, oddly, are weird. They are selling right now in the current league for a decent chunk, or a few chaos, 4 chaos, 5 chaos, something like that. Really depends on the demand. Enchanted fossils, about 5, but these have been selling for 10 in the current league, but that's a matured league. So we're looking at a league start we're focused on. So you probably get away with selling them for 5 before people start figuring out what they want to do. Encrusted, you're probably going to sell for 2 roundabouts, anywhere up to 3 at the start of the league, and they don't really move very far from there. Faceted and fractured, at the start of the league, you're more or less going to be farming down to 150. 100, 150, that's going to be your sweet spot. So if you get these, good luck, and I'll actually give you a bit of an idea of where these might be hiding. There is a bit of a guide that allows us to target farm as well, so that's actually in the next tab, but we'll get into that next. Frigids, 1C, they're just not that worth that much. Gildeds, we'll probably get away with 6 at the start of the league. Glyphics, about 28 at the start of the league, but last league they were selling for 38 at the start, so they may actually be on the rise. Hollow fossils, they're holding pretty fast, about the probably 90 or 85 to 100 at the start of the league, depending on the need. Obviously, jagged, lucents, metallics, not worth a lot. Perfect fossils, now, I was selling these for 10C right now in the market, but about 7 at the start of the league on average. And obviously, resonators at the start of the league are going to sell for a little more, so you're probably going to sell them from 2 anywhere up to 4 at the start of the league, based on the demand. And obviously, fossil crafting is becoming quite a common way to craft. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Sanctified fossils, they're going to sell about 17 to 22, give or take. Prismatics for about 4, that's about right. Pristine fossils about 5. Serrateds, I've amended this, they sell for up to about 15, I would say, at the very start of the league, and shutterings and tangled. So you're going to get a fair few serrateds and shutterings and things like that. Prismatics and pristines drop a lot as well, so when you're building up those Exalts at the start of the league, and usually Exalts are usually 60 to 80 chaos at the very start of the league, and then for whatever reason they get price fixed up to fucking 190, and it gets really expensive. So we're going to want to do this farming really early in the league to basically make the currency early in the league, and then you can go from there. You can do market trading, things like that with Exalts if you can get currency up early, but Delves are a really consistent way of making that currency. So you might be going next, well, Jorgen, how the fuck do I target where I should be getting my fossils? Well, it's a really good question. There's a website for that too. So if we go to poelab.com, which I've got a link in this spreadsheet here, actually there's a fossil cheat sheet. So if you have a look at the backdrops here, you'll see in the different backdrops there's a probability of different fossils dropping. So petrified forest, which is like the brownish color, we're going to get sanctifieds behind fractured walls, a lot of bound and corroded. So they're actually, corrodeds are not a bad selling price, so that's quite profitable, and sanctifieds, you're going to get a decent chunk for that. Frozen hollows, again, sanctifieds will drop in there, and serrated fossils and prismatics. So do the blue areas, they're pretty decent. Magma fissures, we want the pristine prismatics and the enchanted fossils. They're going to be the ones to go. Sulfur vents, which is like it's like a yellowy brown. It's going to be basically perfect fossils and etherics we want from there. The rest can go fuck off. Fungal caverns, which is like a purpley color, we want the corroded, the dense, the perfect, gilded, yeah, give or take. And then the abyssal depths, so the green areas, gilded. Now, I would probably stay away from the abyssal depths because it's just not... Looking at this, there is potentially less probability for variety to drop, and that could be an issue. Now, I don't have an exact calculation on drop percentages, and that's a hard one to calculate. If it can even be done. But anyway, this will give you basically the general gist of what to look for when you're actually going down into your delves. And when I say what to look for, when you're going down into your delve, if you go to your subterranean chart, you'll actually see the colors here. And it'll tell you petrified forest, fungal caverns. If you hover over that, it'll tell you right in the bottom left hand corner what the probability or what probabilities are. So we're going to be wanting to go to areas where there is high quant, high rarity, and we're going to have the highest probability of having fossil drops in there. The other thing to look out for when you're doing your delving at the starting the league, and I should probably say if we go back up to 150, because this is just my standard tree, so we don't really give too many fucks about this. So we're looking at about 400 sulfite to move around at these different levels. Yeah, it's at depth 100, 700 sulfite. So you're still going to need to accrue a little bit of sulfite. When you're first starting out, probably about depth 70s, not a bad spot. You're going to get a lot of resonators, and it's relatively cheap to run. And then when we can get to depth 150, there's not a lot of difference between the cost of doing depth 150 and the cost of doing depth 100. So you're better off doing depth 150. And obviously, so if we're looking at this here, from basically our calculation, in here we can see the red, so magma fissure. We know that we're going to have a probability of prismatics and pristines dropping in this area. So that's probably a good idea. So if you follow paths that chain together, that take you over different areas, you can actually target farm your fossils quite effectively, which also means if you're crafting fossil crafted gear, you can target farm delve in a way that you don't have to buy your fossils. You basically just farm your fossils as part of your standard gameplay. So anyway, I hope this helps and gives you an idea of what to look for. This is basically my strategy in League Start to try and maximize my profit from delving, because as soon as I can get down the delves, I'll be running early Nico maps on white maps and into the yellow maps, as many Nico missions as I can do, and trying to get the rusted scarabs at the very start to max out and get down into delve. And then this is pretty much where I'm going to make my profit. Precursor for the last league, I think I was playing for a week straight. I was making I would have been making something in the excess of 5x on average a day. Well, given 5x to every 5 hours, so about an x an hour based on selling currency. And the best thing about fossil crafting, and someone actually, I remember seeing a note on one of my videos a little while back, and it was like, oh, someone had a go at me about, you know, oh, fossils are nerf, rah, rah, rah. Fossils are one of the most effective ways to craft gear in this game. So the demand for fossils is always unbelievable, and who knows how the market's going to trend. There's going to be a meta or a few metas that are going to be played in this league, and it's probably going to throw the price up of different fossils. Who the fuck knows? Fossils are just really consistent, really easy to come by, and I would definitely suggest, if you're getting into Path of Exile for the first time, watch my videos about delving and do a bit of research about delve. If you want to try and figure out how to make currency, then definitely delve is the way you do it. Anyway, I'll put all the links in the description, and if you like this video, like and sub. If you hate this video, give me a dislike. Otherwise, bye for now.